So I want to say a few thank yous before we actually get into some of the contents of the book. So this is the third March of Living program of Holocaust Education Week. And I just want to say that Holocaust Education Week is among the most outstanding Holocaust education programs in the world. The staff and volunteers of the Newburgh Center are nothing short of amazing, and I've seen this year in and year out. And we're so grateful for their dedication and commitment to Holocaust education and for their partnership with March of the Living, Congregation Habonim, and so many other organizations in the city. I have a couple more thank yous before we continue the program. First of all, I do want to give my heartfelt gratitude to the staff at Second Story Press. For the last 25 years, Second Story Press has been providing the reading public with profoundly moving and award-winning Holocaust and feminist literature. It has been truly a wonderful experience working with their publisher, Margie Wolf, and her totally devoted staff at Second Story Press. I never come across staff so positive, so enthusiastic about their work. A big hand to Margie and to Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, I also want to thank all of my colleagues, past and present, March Living Canada, Danny, Michael, Sherry, Alana, Laura, and Terry, and so many others across Canada around the world, both big and small ways, helped make this book a reality. And finally, I want to thank the survivors who appear in Witness, whose courage and eloquence fill every page of this book, and whose bravery inspires me every moment of my life. I'd specifically like to thank those survivors who are with us here tonight and ask them all to stand. So please stand up. Judy, once you get going. Nick Leipziger, Katie Linden, Bill Mandel, Sally Washington, Susan Pasternak, and Harry Rosenbach. So now what we're going to do is take a few minutes and you just look at a few pages from the book Witness. And as I do that, Sylvia and Naomi are going to be on the side there working the computers, and we might go back and forth between two computers, so forgive us if there's a few seconds of delay. And just before we go to the book, I want you to tell you two things about this book. The first thing is the Holocaust was probably the worst experience of human brutality in history. But this book is not about hate, it's not about revenge, it's not about anger, it's about hope, it's about love, it's about making the world a better place. We'll never know why the Holocaust happened, but we do know how to respond. And we respond by building the exact opposite world the Nazis wanted to build. They wanted to build a world of blind hatred, endless animosity, and jealousy. We're going to build the exact opposite world with endless love and kindness and peace and harmony. And that's reflected in the pages of this book. It's all about making the world a better place. Secondly, as you'll see in a few moments, we did an agreement with the Steven Spielberg Foundation, the USC Shoah Foundation, where all of the survivors and all the righteous among the nations and liberators who appear in the book, if there's testimony about them, you can actually take your smartphone, put it on the page of the book where the survivor's image appears, and you'll be taken to their testimony either on the USC Shoah Foundation site or on the March of the Living website. We'll tell you a little more about that later. So let's go through the book just for a few moments. We're not going to go through every page, but we'll go through some of the pages. So if you look at the table of contents, first of all, we have an introduction from Pope Francis. Pope and I are very good friends. We golf every week, and one day somebody knew him, and he agreed to do it. So the book is not just about the March of the Living or the March for Remembrance and Hope. Just in case you don't know, everybody knows what the March of the Living is. The March for Remembrance and Hope is like the March of the Living, but it's a program for interfaith university students of all backgrounds, Christian, Muslim, First Nation, Sikh, atheist, whatever background, and we go to Germany and Poland. And this book is mostly March of the Living students, but there's some March for Remembrance and Hope students as well. So if you look at the introduction, it's not just a book about the kids' experiences, it's also a summary of the Holocaust. So we have what happened and to whom, where it took place and who let it happen, who resisted and how. There's a basic, general overview about the Holocaust for those people who don't know what it is. This book is being distributed around the world, published in many languages, and therefore we made sure to do a general overview of the Holocaust for people who weren't familiar with what happened. Now we're going to move along to some selections from the book that I want to specifically point out to you. So I'm moving on to page 13. And there we have Elie Wiesel, as he was when he was liberated in the barrack, and as he looks like today. If you see there's a little flame over his picture in the corner. That flame tells you that if you took your smartphone or smart device and put it over his picture, you'll be taken to his testimony. We don't have time to go through every one, but just as an example, What will that take you to? If you go onto the web, you will see Elie Wiesel and the 1990 March of the Living. And he's standing there in front of thousands of young people, and he says, "Forever will I see the young people and the old people, the fathers and the mothers and the grandmothers and the grandfathers, and the little children. Forever will I see them. How can I ever cry enough for them? Who has the strength to cry for them?" And then he looks out in the distance, and he goes back into his memory, and he says, I see a young girl. And obviously he's recalling a very difficult experience in the Holocaust. He says, I see a young girl. You know what happens next? He shakes his head and walks off the stage. Elie Wiesel, the world's most eloquent speaker about the Holocaust, could not finish the story. He was so overwhelmed by emotions. Even Elie Wiesel, in the face of the Holocaust, couldn't find the words. That's the kind of video you're going to see when you click on that link. Just one example. So we keep going forward. And the next thing I want to draw your attention to is Lisa Grushko. He's on page 27, I believe, right? She's a rabbi in Montreal, and she's often a person friendly debating with Rabbi Korovkin, both incredibly intelligent people. She went on the March of the Living in 1990. Now she's a rabbi in Montreal. Look how far she's come. And this is what she writes at 15 years of age. Just one example of the incredible poetry of the book. She writes as follows after visiting Majdanek. So hard to be coherent about Majdanek. Still all too raw for me to worry about punctuation and sense. Some days it would seem as I've never gone. Others, like today, I neglect my work to read books about the Shoah, to go over my pictures and cry. It seems that Majdanek is real. School and society as a whole should not be. What happened during the Shoah wasn't okay, and there's so few words that we can use to comfort each other. Our language rings hollow, and then we try to form sentences. When we do that, we detract from the feeling of the shoes that we caress to the grates and the courses of the soil at Treblinka as it rang through our fingers. I've given up any pretense of understanding. All I know is this: at Majdanek, I was terrified of falling into the ashes. That's just a beautiful piece of writing from a girl, a young woman who was 15 years of age on the March of the Living in 1990. So we're now moving on in the book, and this is, of course, Janusz Korczak, Righteous Among the Nations, Sidney Zoltak. Incredible picture. That's Sidney Zoltak, who was saved by Sigmund Krinsky. They reunite 7 years later outside the barn where he hit him. Look at that picture. You're not going to meet a more noble human being. And the love and the friendship between those two people is unbelievable. And we don't have time, but if you clicked on the video to the left, you'll see Sidney Zoltak in Treblinka. And what's he saying? He's saying to the young people, you know, you have class reunions. But when I came back to my hometown Simitich after the war, none of my friends were alive. Not a single one. The only place I can have a class reunion is here amid the stones in Treblinka. That's what you're going to see if you click on his video. So now we're in the section of the book, we're almost done here, where we are talking about survivors passing on their stories to the next generation. So we're on to page 68 and 69, and this is in the book, and this is the story of Max Eisen, one of the hundreds of stories I've heard from Max. And I remember when I was in Queen's University, we were doing a Shabbaton, and somebody brought in a Sefer Torah, because we were using the Torah that morning, and you could see the non-Jewish students looking at the Torah, wondering what it was. And then Max walked over and started telling these students, you know what this is? This is the Hebrew Scriptures. And this was burnt by the thousands by the Nazis. And then he quoted to the students, you know, they say when you first burn books, eventually you'll start to burn people. And I'll never forget that moment. Here was Max in Kingston with a group of students he'd never met before, weren't part of our program, and just naturally stood up there and started telling stories. Thank you all for the privilege of working with the most courageous, eloquent, and brave people I've ever come across in my life. So thank you to you, the survivors. So I'd like to ask our cantor Aviva to come to the beam and lead us on tape. But just before that, if Marty Levitt is here, is Marty Levitt here? We heard from so many people from the survivor generation. Marty's just going to read poems that she wrote for the 1990 March of the Living. So I'd like to ask you all just take a seat for a moment just to listen to her poems before we conclude on tape.
March on. It's hard to walk on in their shoes, the shoes we saw at my Dominic. Me, without scars, in the scraped up shoes, dirty, soft, and old. But new for me, it's hard to decide when to put them on and when to take them off. All I can do. I want to hug that person, but all I will feel is a gravestone. I want to return it upright, but the stone stands crooked. History stays put, and all I can do is remember.
And one last poem, Marnie, which you didn't write, but is the theme of the book. This is the last poem in the book. It's called Still I Cannot Hate by Jennifer Staffenberg, which is the theme of the March of the Living.
And still I cannot hate. I see bones and hair, shoes and glasses, while in a nasty hell ruled by the devil's brother, but still I cannot hate. I see women's brushes, men's talisman, and babies' tattered clothing, but I still cannot hate. I see splintered boards where people laid their weary bodies. I see where people slaved and tried to exist, and still I cannot hate. I see the death and destruction, but still I cannot hate. I won't continue this tragedy. I won't spread this disease. I won't fan the flames that hate like this inspires. Jennifer Staffenberg, 17, March of the Living, 1994.
Thank you, Marnie. Great to see you. We're hoping to see you. So this evening is about hope. Let us close with Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, led by our cantor, Igor Risky. So just before we conclude the evening, at the back there are strictly kosher refreshments provided courtesy Second Story Press. So all the books for the sale, I'm sure the survivors will be happy to sign them. Thank you again for a wonderful evening. Thank you.